Microsoft Teams sessions can either be scheduled as regular meetings or live events. But did you know there was also a webinar feature in Microsoft Teams? A webinar feature where you can send out a registration form for attendees to sign up to? If not, then this video is for you. I will show you how you can use the Microsoft Teams webinar feature and how you can enrich your digital teaching portfolio. Hi, my name is Gerd Christandl and I'm an online educator and learning technologist at the University of Greenwich in London, UK. Do you want to build your digital skills for your online and hybrid teaching needs? Then hit that subscribe button below, turn on the notification bell to avoid missing out on new content published on my channel. Cheers! Now I'm over here in the Microsoft Teams calendar and I want to schedule a webinar for my students which is outside the regularly scheduled timetable. The webinar will feature a guest speaker and will be about employability and career options for my students. To do so, I'm going to go up to the New Meeting button and click on the down arrow next to it. You can see here the three types of sessions that I can actually schedule in Microsoft Teams. The schedule meeting option you would probably use for smaller, more interactive sessions, such as a regular seminar or tutorial. The live event is more for larger audiences with wider spread, but less interactive. It's more for informational sessions. We're going to go ahead and click on the webinar option. Now we're here in the new webinar window and we can set up the details for our webinar. First and foremost, we're going to give this webinar title, and my fictitious webinar is called Career Salon with featured guest speaker Aaron Tan. Aaron Tan is not fictitious, he's a colleague of mine at the University of Greenwich and is also a learning technologist at the Faculty of Business. To be sure that he will join the webinar as a presenter, I'm going to add him to the presenters line here and make sure that he is also available according to his calendar. Now I'm going to set the time when Aaron is supposed to join the webinar and of course the date. So I'm going to set the date and the time, in this case, in our example here at 11:30, and the webinar will end at 1 p.m. However, the webinar itself for the students or for participants in general will start at 12 o'clock. So I have set here half an hour earlier to allow for a little bit of buffer time. So the presenter can come in and set up their presentation, maybe have a chat about the proceedings of the webinar beforehand. The actual time of the webinar I can maintain later in the registration form. So we're going to go to the registration form in a minute. Just going to give this a little bit more detail. So next, I'm actually going to go ahead and customize the registration form. The registration form will be what my participants will be able to access. You can do so by going up here on top and click on View Registration Form. The registration form opens and you can give the event a title. We set the date. And remember that I said earlier that I set here the time to 11:30. This is when I want my presenter or presenters to join the webinar. But for my participants, the webinar will start at 12 o'clock and I'm gonna have this ended at 1 p.m. I can give the webinar a little bit of a description. So it's always good for prospective participants of my webinar to know a little bit more about the featured guest speaker that I'm even mentioning in the title of the event. So down here I can actually add the name of the speaker and I can add a short biography about my guest speaker to really whet the appetite of my audience. So over here we see the information that we want to know from somebody that is going to sign up for our event. First name, surname and email address, of course important for us to know, but we can also ask for more information if we require it. We can ask for their address, city, state, postcode, country, region, industry, job title and organization. However, in our case, our guest speaker wants to know whether the prospective participants, which are our students, have already considered a career in IT consulting. To do so, we can actually click on Customize Question, and then we can ask for either choice or input. In our case, we're going to select Input. That opens a new field. This will be the field where participants fill in their answer, and we will make sure that everybody who signs up for my event actually fills this question in or answers this question. So therefore, I'm going to click here on Required. That's basically it, and I can save that form. And you can see that it has taken the information that I've put in, and I can actually have a look how this form looks like in a browser. So here on the top right, you see the command View in Browser, and you click on it. So now I'm here in a preview of my registration form as I have currently maintained it. And I'm checking, double checking everything, the dates, the times, the information that I've given, the information that I want my participants to provide when they're signing up for my webinar. But then I see that with the question, have you ever considered a career in IT consulting? It's actually an open answer, and I actually want participants to answer either yes or no. So I need to change my registration form. Now I'm back here in Microsoft Teams, and I am just going to go ahead and click on my View Registration Form as before. And I'm going to go and copy paste the text because I want to keep the text, delete this, add a new customized question as before, but in this case I'm not gonna select input but choice. So give them the choice of yes and no. We're gonna keep this very simple. Of course you can ask several questions here. That looks better, and I want my participants to answer this question before they're allowed to register for the event. So looking at my form here, I'm thinking it could look actually better, more appealing. Maybe I give this an image to really make them want to sign up for my event. So I've prepared an image for that purpose. I'm going to click on Upload an Image, and Microsoft Teams informs me that I can upload an image, ideally with the dimensions of 918 by 120 pixels. So I'm just going to drag my image over here and copy it in. You can see it's a perfect fit. Right here is Aaron. It's a nice title. It would really entice my audience, or at least that's my hope. Save, and then I'm going to go ahead and view it again in my browser. Now I'm back here in my browser, and you can see this looks much better now. So the information from before that have not changed is still there. First name, surname, and email are being asked for during registration. Participants can select yes or no to the question that Aaron wants to ask them. And up here I have my image. Looks really good. It's going to be a very interesting form. And if they don't want to sign up now, then I don't know what else I could do. So how can I now go ahead and get this link to my students? I can go ahead and click here on copy registration link, which is here on top in the registration form window. I'm just going to click on it, and it is copied. So now I can go ahead and send out the registration link, and I can post this on any kind of platform, forum, on Moodle or Canvas or Blackboard. I can send it via direct message or channel message to my students, or I can use an email like the one you see here. In this case, I'm going to send this invitation to Emma. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight this here. I'm going to add a link to it. I've copied the link earlier. I'm gonna make sure that this link is pasted. Click OK. So once Emma receives that email and she's signing up for that event, she will get to my registration form and will be able to register for my cool event. I'm gonna send this off, and hopefully Emma is so enticed by this invitation that she will register for this cool webinar coming Monday. If I now want to check later if people have registered for my webinar, I can go ahead in my Teams calendar, go to my event, and you can see that there is actually a registration form here now that I can download. I'm all excited. I want to know if people have already signed up for my event, so I'm just going to go ahead and open it. So now I've opened my registration form right here, and I can see that Emma has signed up. Fantastic. She's going to participate in the webinar. She has answered the question, have you ever considered a career in IT consulting, as no. I can see when she has registered. Fantastic, and eventually this would be hopefully a longer list of participants, and it gives me a pretty good idea how many of my participants have actually considered a career in IT consulting, and then I can give that information to my guest speaker, and then he can include that in his part of the webinar, which makes it way more targeted and interactive with the webinar participants. So back in my event window, I can also change a couple of meeting options in here. Click on change options here on top. Now this opens in a browser window, and I can see here my meeting options, and this is very much the same as what we would expect from a regular Teams meeting. I can set if people can bypass the lobby. I would not change that because this is exactly what I want to do. The people that register using my registration form are people that are invited, because as a response to them accepting or registering for the event, Teams sends out the link to the webinar itself, and then on the day they can participate in the webinar. Can set also other things like who can present, like specific people. In this case is already preset because I have set Aaron as the guest speaker earlier, so this is already set. I can record the webinar automatically at this point. I can set this myself. So I can set this to yes, because on the day I might be a bit nervous if everything goes alright, and I want everything to be recorded, and I can edit it later to cut out those parts that are not relevant to someone who wants to watch a recording of the webinar. I can allow reactions. I like reactions. I like people using the emojis, the thumbs up, the smiley faces, hopefully no frowny faces during the webinar. And I can go ahead if I made any changes here and save. Most of these things I can also change during the webinar, but I can already set up a couple of things before the webinar starts. So now the webinar has started and Emma is all but excited. That's actually wrong. She's very excited for it, isn't she? What Aaron is about to tell is about employability and career options, but Aaron has not arrived yet. He might be delayed, he might be stuck in traffic or waiting for petrol at a petrol station. So I have to kind of warm up the audience, but I don't want Emma to interrupt me. So sorry, Emma, I have to go ahead and I have to disable your microphone. So Emma, can you actually say something? And there you go, nothing's happening, nothing's coming through. I can still see Emma pulling faces at me, so I could just go further, go into the options right here and disable Emma's camera just like so, and I can just go ahead and talk until Aaron will have arrived. There she is, back again. Thank the Lord she is back. And I can even deeply apologize to Emma by making her a presenter for that, and then she could go ahead and present herself. She could actually stand in for Aaron because he's still delayed and do the presentation instead of him. Here you can have your device settings. You can open your meeting options as we have seen them earlier when we set up the meeting. We can just also go ahead and change it to start a recording. If it's not automatically recording, we can turn on live captions and so on. So all of this is well-known stuff. We have seen this before in Microsoft Teams regular meetings. So nothing changes there. But the webinar feature adds a couple of additional things that you might find very useful if you want to run a webinar where participants are required to register beforehand. Thank you for watching that video, and this is goodbye from us, me and Emma. Thank you very much.